objective. Sometimes you might want to do your first cut to sort of like throw your opponent off. So we have multiple cutting techniques. Kote men. Step back, give yourself some room. Come back over here. Sashi, yeah. Give yourself some room. Yeah! Yeah! Hey, okay, so when we're practicing, let me demonstrate for a second. What you notice is when the man makes, when we were showing these cuts, when the man goes for the men, after he makes contact, go ahead, you notice that the man steps out the way to let him go through, okay? That way he can learn to bring his body through the person, okay? Here again, if he comes to cut the men, go ahead. After receiving it, I'll step to the side and the man goes through. That's not so realistic in combat, however, because of course in combat, your objective is to put the man down onto the ground. So the more realistic cut would be cut and then come in here, okay? I'm not going to step to the side after I've just instructed the head. So we practice that as well. When we go into a tournament, for instance, if we're competing in a tournament, we don't want to start to play nice, okay? We don't play nice where, come again, where he's going to cut and I step to the side. That's not the objective anymore. It gets a little bit more aggressive when you go into the tournament. He's going to cut the head, come in here, and we're going to have contact. So we're going to demonstrate that for you where it's coming closer to what you would see in a tournament. Go ahead, guys. So, men, Tayatari, Hiki, men. All right, we'll start with you. And reverse. Face on. Okay, so you have a little bit more body contact when you're competing. Also, what you've just noticed is one person attacks at a time while the other person is waiting. That's part of the training. The person who receives the cut, he's called Muladashi. But when you get into a real tournament, that's not so realistic. You're not going to have one person standing and waiting. Many times, people are going to attack at the same time. So we'll demonstrate some techniques where the two men are going to attack at the same time. In such a situation, when both men are attacking at the same time, if it's a tournament, you just have to hope that your cut is faster, stronger, and can get in before the other man's cut comes in. And then you'll get the point and win the match. Go ahead. Iman. Do it like 3 times. Iman. Yeah! So there are some of the different training techniques that we perform. We mentioned that there were 4 legal cuts in Kendo. One's cut to the head, one is a cut across the wrist, one is a cut across the belly. The 4th one that we talked about was a jab to the throat, which we didn't demonstrate yet. And so I'm going to try to demonstrate that to you all now. Before I do this, I'm going to make up my confession. I haven't practiced this cut in a year. The last time I did this was right here on this stage. And if you're here, you know it didn't go so well. It took me about 5 or 6 tries before I got it. So hopefully, it's a very difficult cut because you have a very small target. I'm going to try and take the tip of my sword and put it right here. It sounds easy, but I promise you it's a lot harder than it looks, especially if you haven't practiced it in a year. The reason why we don't practice it so much is because of all of the cuts. This is the most difficult one to achieve. It's also the most dangerous one to perform. So sometimes it's just better not to worry with it so much. If I'm going to go to a tournament, I know that my best chance of scoring a point will be to cut the man's head or to cut the man's wrist. So if I'm training, I'm going to train to cut the head, I'm going to train to cut the wrist. I'm not going to be so worried about training on this because I know I probably will not get a point on it anyway. So, I've just made my confession. If it takes me a few tries, either I'll give up or I'll get it. You see, I missed. Came to the side. Try again. That was all right. All right. You're in luck. I got it on the 2nd try. Last time, I promised, it took me about 6 or 7 tries, so you're in luck. All right. The next thing we want to demonstrate is a simulated, what we call keiko, where the men are actually fighting. It's like sparring. It would be the Kendo term for sparring. They're going to come out in keiko. As I said, please keep in mind, they can't do this full force or full speed because there's just not enough space up here. So we have to be aware of our limited amount of space. We have to be aware of the possibility of falling off the edge of the stage. So what you're going to see here is really just, it's not nearly as intense as a Keiko would be in a tournament or in our practice. But you'll get some demonstration, okay? All right, guys, y'all go ahead and remember, keep in mind, you're dealing with limited space here, okay? So, I'll go with Hajime Yami, okay? Thank you. Okay, so that'll conclude our demonstration. I didn't introduce anyone, just very quickly. My name is Frank, this is John, this is Matt, this is Jake, and this is Vanessa. If you want to come up and talk to us, if you want to look at the equipment, please do so. I have some really neat, cool-looking flyers. If you want to take a flyer, please take one. Even if you don't do anything with the flyer, but put it up in your bedroom, that's cool. It doesn't matter to me. Great!